everybody. So, welcome to week 12. Let's look at our content. A couple of things a little different this week. Obviously, we have our directions and our checklist. But what I want to look at is our content and our assessment. So, under content this week, I have some video lessons, but they're different. This is actually just some time-lapse videos of me working, because that's mostly what you're going to be doing this week, is working on your character for Project 3. Now, we'll talk about Project 3 here in a second, but you'll see that what I've done is I've sketched out a quick concept of the character, and then I have a time-lapse video of me creating that concept, so you can see just me taking the time to figure out what I want this character to look like. And that's because you need something like that as well to get started. I know you don't have to make something as finished as this, but you need some information. So when you're modeling, you can see stuff about proportions. You can see stuff about maybe about color, maybe about shapes. I have two other time-lapse videos in here. One is me modeling the character, and this one's a little longer. And I left errors in here. Like, there was a lot of times when I was working on certain methods and it just wasn't working, and I just went ahead and left that in there so you can see that modeling is not that's not you doing it wrong. That's just part of the process. Like, if you are also fighting with trying to get the right shape, I mean, that's just what modeling is, right? And so, like, this whole first little section here, I was working really hard to get a shape that I was having a hard time getting, and eventually I ended up going a different method in order to get the flat areas on the side of the head. So you see, I just started over from scratch. This video is just me creating the model all the way to the end. The third video is me creating the materials. And then this is roughly what I have at the end. Now, I'll be honest, the materials are probably the weak part of this right now. It's just a color map on the character, or at least on this blue-yellow part. And I painted it with my mouse. So, I mean, definitely could use some extra work. But to give us something to start working with, we can always change that texture after we've UV unwrapped it all the way up to the end and rendering. So this is kind of what you're going to be doing as well. So if we go back to our assessments, you'll see that we have three things. We have Project 3. This is our actual project assignment, right? We have a discussion topic, and then we have the option to submit revisions. So let's look at the project kind of quickly. First, like, what we're making for PR3 is a robot of some sort. Now, I call it a robot. Really, it can be any two-legged creature, but why we're doing it, the benefit is to grow more from guided work than any other type of learning. So we're going to go ahead and start on a larger project together, and you're going to make something kind of big, a pretty large piece. But the majority of this class is going to be sort of guided work time. So for this week, you're going to be doing your models and your textures, and crafting the model you need for this project. Next week, we'll be rigging it together. So I will rig my robot, you will rig your robot. The week after that, we'll be animating it together. And then the following week from that is when the project would be due. So we got about 3.5 weeks to get this done. So you're going to concept, model, UV, texture, light, rig, animate a walk, and render a two-legged robot or creature. That's what you're doing. To get an idea, two-legged robot or creature, think Ed 209. So I clicked on a little example of this. This is from RoboCop. This was roughly what the creature looked like. So you could do something like this. You saw the example of the robot I've made. Pretty much just something that is a head or torso with two legs. Now, you're going to be very tempted to give it arms. I'm going to discourage you from doing that. In fact, I'm going to discourage you from doing anything more complex, because we have to rig all of this stuff in order to be animated. And the more complexity you add there, the more stuff you are going to end up having to figure out on your own, because I'm only really going to be covering the two legs and how to create the rig for that. And that's going to be pretty complicated just by itself. So If you do feel the absolute necessity to add something additional to it, recognize that that's going to require a little extra research on your part on how to rig that in the way that you want it to move. So, step one, you're going to start by designing your own 2D concept sketches of the character based on reference images, ideas you have, 2 legs, a head, base, and no additional limbs or spine. So, again, it doesn't have to be a robot, but the reason I chose a robot is because the fact that the parts are segmented into individual model pieces, like the upper leg is a different model than the lower leg, that's actually going to make it a little easier for us to render. That doesn't mean you have to do that. If you have a design where the leg is all one continuous piece, that's okay. That just means there's a little bit of extra work you have to do in the skinning process. Step 2, you will model, UV, and texture your character. Step 3, we'll rig your character together. This part is complicated and can break easily, so that's why we're limiting it to 2 legs. Then we're going to animate a walk cycle. I got to fix that spacing on that. That's going to drive me crazy. We're going to animate a walk cycle with your new rig. So that will be not next week, but the week after that. And we'll go through the basics together, and you'll animate your character taking a minimum of 6 steps forward. And step 5, you're going to render the final shot. You're going to create a basic background environment. It doesn't have to be a full environment like you did with the kitchen scene. But what I would like you to consider is whatever it is you're enjoying doing. If it's modeling, that's cool. Consider this the area where you get to play with that a little bit, right? If you are enjoying animating more, then maybe your character takes those 6 steps and then does a little dance or something. Like I want you to find the thing that you're enjoying and make that your pet for this project, right? Make sure that's the part that you are spending the most amount of time on. And if it's lighting and rendering, that's cool too. Like, again, this class is to help you figure out what it is you want to do in this program. And so spend some time on that. So the final deliverable is a rendered video of your final animation. If it's not fully rendered, it'll be an automatic 0 for that portion of the grade on the rubric. So that's important because this will be due at the end of the semester, right? So that is something we definitely need to talk about. This is the final project, but classes end for most of our classes on Thursday, May 2nd. So that week of that ends in the 3rd on Friday there. That week is finals week on campus. The following Monday, grades have to be submitted. That Saturday, people graduate. Like, that's when graduation is. So just to make it equitable amongst this class and all of the on-ground classes, I'm giving you to the very last day that most people have finals on the ground. There are occasionally a couple of finals on Friday for sort of extenuating circumstances, but our due date for this final will be Thursday, May 2nd at 11:59 p.m. So that's Thursday, not Sunday. And so I just want you to sort of factor that in. That week, though, there will be no additional things assigned. I give you a video to watch, and I think there's like a little like discussion post or something. I'm not even for sure if it's going to have a discussion post yet. I'll have to look at the grade book to make sure. But there is a video I want you to watch, but it's more of a motivational video than anything. And so this is slightly earlier than usual. I just want you to keep that in mind, so I don't get some frantic emails later. And I'll try to remind you at the beginning of this week as well, or the beginning of the final week. So how it's graded, again, there's a rubric: modeling, lighting and rendering, rigging, animation, and then overall presentation. Like, you can have great all of this other stuff, but if I'm seeing it from a quarter mile away, or if the camera is flying all over the place, or maybe you just didn't put any color into anything and it just feels drab and not interesting. Like that's what I'm looking at for overall presentation. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit and give you some information. So let's go back to assessment. The last couple of things I want to talk about: the discussion board. Basically, from when I did mine, I drew that sketch of my robot. That's what I was basing my model off of, and that's the same with you. So by Thursday, you should have some form of sketch put together. I want you to share that with the class and get some feedback from them, because some of the things they may tell you may make your model better, or it may make it may allow you to create a model that will work better for your animation. So an example I used is if your character's feet are huge, that might make it difficult to animate the character walking, right? So this is where you get your feedback from your peers on that. Now you can have already started modeling at that point, but this is where you can post that to get some feedback on that and implement that into your model. The last thing I'll point out is the revision submissions. So a lot of you are really worried about the fact that your render wasn't turning out right and everything. I want to remind you about this. This is for all of the projects. If you turned in an exercise and got a bad grade on the exercise, you can revise that. You can always revise project 1, but of course you can revise project 2 now as well. So if you turned in something last night and it's not what you were happy with and you've already re-rendered it and it's better, then submit it here and it goes into a different folder. But when I grade, I go look at that folder and I update the grades from that. So if you turned it in the first time, even if it was just even if it was only half complete, you may end up getting a 50 on that grade. But when you submit a revision from that, if it's amazing, you can turn that 50 into a 100. So I want you to really consider this, but I also want you to keep this as this is sort of built in as a safety net. So I don't have to give you a 0 just because you had some problems or you had a bad week. As long as you're able to turn something in, you can revise that and raise that grade to whatever grade you want. However much effort you want to put into it, you can continue to raise the grade. So, okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will look through the emails and make sure I've answered everything. A couple of people did have some issues with submissions, like they submitted stuff that was named incorrectly. If you want to email me, I can change the names of those files so I'll know which one's which. But I appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.